Hey everybody, hold on one second. I'm trying to get signed into the geeky.com TV chat. So just give me 1 second and I will be right with you. If you want to, you can head over to the live chat over there at geeky.com. The link is down below. Yeah, so let me just get signed in the chat really quick. Had some problems signing on the last couple seconds, so let me try this again. Be right with you. Link is down below once again. Just trying to sign me in, but I'm not sure if it's... Sorry about this little delay. I guess before I start, I could go ahead and just say thank you to all my subscribers. Thank you. Yeah, there's a error with the chat, but it's okay. You could go still stream this through geeky.com. So go over to geeky.com in the link below and stream it through that instead of YouTube if you choose. And yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to all my subs and to all my supporters on Patreon. I started a Patreon this past week, so a lot of my vision behind that was, man, I should have opened up the window a little bit. Hold on 1 second. All right, just had to open up the window right there. But I just wanted to say thank you to all my geeky.com friends. Thank you to all my supporters on Patreon. I wanted to start a Patreon because it's been 4 years since I've been on the YouTube channel. And I'm just really excited about what I've actually been through in the last 4 years, meeting great friends, making videos. And I had no clue I would actually last 4 years. And so at the end of the 4 years, I started thinking about the goals that I originally set for myself on my channel when I first started. I was like, okay, well, it'd be cool to one day get over 1,000 subscribers. I didn't ever think I was going to get above 1,000 subscribers. And then another thing was, man, I really wanted to be a YouTube partner, because back then you had to be a partner to be able to change your thumbnails and do all that stuff. So I really, really wanted to do that. And of course, I didn't think I was actually going to get that far at all. And the third one, oh man, I completely forgot what it was. Oh, to one day get a screener film from a DVD distribution studio to review prior to the release date. And those are 3 goals that I set just to kind of give some, a road to go on in regards to the YouTube channel. And so I didn't actually think I was going to get them. It was just going to give me a vision. Some people need a vision at the end of the, for whatever they do, and that's the kind of person I am. It helps motivate me to get to that goal, or even if I don't get that goal, I still have fun along the way. And so it's 4 years later now. Actually, today's the 27th of January. It's been 4 years since, about 4 years and a week since I started my YouTube channel. So, and I'm happy to report that I have met all of my goals. I'm very, very thankful for each and every one of you for the past 4 years. I know I have a lot of new subscribers, but then I also have people that follow me that have really watched me since day one. I know there's some people that have been commenting on my videos since day one. I remember people shooting me messages after my second video, which went out the next day. And I still have a big group of followers that have actually followed me since then. And I'm really thankful for each and every one of you, because pretty much it was because of your word of mouth that I started getting other viewers. And because really when I first started, I didn't put any tags on my videos, nothing. All I did was send my video to a couple people that I had watched that inspired me to become a YouTuber. And so I didn't actually think I was gonna, meet any of those goals, but thankfully I did. Let me go onto my camera really quick and turn that autofocus off, because it's really annoying me. All I can see in the corner of my eye is the screen of my computer that shows the stream, and it just keeps going in and out like something out of an awesome sci-fi movie. But anyways, yeah, and really the past few months I've been thinking about what can I do to, go even further on my YouTube channel. Okay, well, now I've met all these goals. What's next? I needed to have some kind of a vision other than doing what I love and meeting new people. I needed a vision. And so a lot of people have been doing this Patreon thing recently, and I was like, whoa, that's actually a pretty cool idea, because it would help with the perks, upgrading of equipment. And I know there's people in my personal life, family, friends, that have asked me, are there things that I can do to support your channel? And then for years, I was like, well, you could star in a short film or something like that. Well, some people just don't want to be on camera. And so I thought, it'd be a cool idea to do a Patreon campaign to where, maybe raise a little bit of money out of it, because they could help in that way. Because there has been a very, awesome and generous small group of people that have actually been supporting my channel all this time, whether it's sending me something or, it's all people, like close friends and family. They've been supporting on camera and stuff. So I wanted to actually have a set platform. I have over 1,000 subs on my YouTube partner, and I really wanted to kind of be a better quality YouTuber, I guess you could say, because this is one of my dreams. I love making videos. It would be awesome in my Patreon campaign goal to actually have a, start my actual production company. I mean, I've done weddings and all that stuff, for years, and short films, but to actually have a company that I could brand whatever I do on there, actually, and maybe one day actually doing it as a full-time job, which is very far down the road, I would say, but that's where my goals, that's where my vision is going. So I figured Patreon is the perfect next step, because it gives you the opportunity to, support me and be a patron of me for as low as $1 a month. I mean, that's insane. I mean, most fundraisers are like, you have to give 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 or 100. This one's just $1 if you want, and that you have the choice to do it at the end of that month anyways. And I was like, you know what, that's really a cool thing to do, because I'm not like begging for money, and it's just a campaign. And so that's my next goal. My first goal is, with the Patreon campaign, is maybe like $50 a month, but I don't really even look at those goals, because just the fact that I started it and a couple people are already supporting me, that blows me away already. I mean, if you would have asked me the first day, is somebody willingly going to give me money to support my videos and to put content on my videos, I would say, dude, you're crazy. I'm just a guy with a little iPhone that, is just streaming it onto the, YouTube, that wants to nerd out and talk about movies. Well, apparently people like hearing me talk about movies and going crazy, because here it is 4 years later and I'm still here. So with all of that aside, I just wanted to say thank you. And once again, I was having some issues signing on the Geeky chat, but you guys need to go over to geeky.com and stream it through geeky.com, because the site's just awesome. If you guys are interested in doing articles or anything of any kind, contact the people in charge. They're more than willing to help you out, because we're all about, not censoring people's voices and their opinions. And there's a lot of sites nowadays that actually do that. And while I'm talking, I'm going to try to sign back in now. Sometimes my computer just sucks in regards to trying to get on different chat rooms and stuff. And I actually think my computer is in the middle of battling a virus right now. So, which is really, really funny. And and so let me try. And while that's trying, I'll just continue. But anyways, go over to geeky.com, stream it through that, and be a part of the conversation over there. And thank you. And as you could tell by the title, today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite genres of films, the epic film. This is a genre that really started me into being a cinephile and really loving movies in particular, because I had always loved epic books. I had always loved epic miniseries on TV, and I have always loved film. Growing up, I was actually in the middle of working on this documentary on myself, just to have, to where I could show my kids when I have kids and all that stuff, just about my love of film. And I actually interviewed my mom for about 2 hours, and she talked about how, that's who I get my love of film from, my mom. And, she would talk to me about, when I was a kid, I was obsessed with different movies. I was obsessed with Batman. There was actually a period of time that I don't even remember when all I did was watch, Michael Keaton films. I was obsessed with Michael Keaton, and to this day, he is still my #1 favorite actor. And I am so excited that he's finally getting, a boost again. And, he's up for the Oscar for the Birdman and stuff. I'm just so excited. And because I've literally been a fan of him for, 27 years, as long as I've been alive. So, but, I used to always watch movies with my mom and my dad. And I guess you could say it was I had always watched movies. I guess you could say it was around 1997. My parents had just got divorced, and my mom was living in an apartment in town, and I was, just really, really bored that day. And so I went over to the office, and I saw that they had a little library of VHS tapes, and they had like a Das Boat, two tape set, and they also had like A Bridge Too Far and a bunch of other epic films. And I was like, man, those boxes look awesome. For those of you that were born after 2000, nowadays you go up and look at a Blu-ray box, and it's really, really cool if it's something that you like. But I'll tell you, there's nothing that compares to the feeling of when you walked up to one of those, to a VHS tape. The VHS boxes were so amazing in regards to the artwork and in regards to the design in general. And it's so, if you go back and look at a lot of classic films on VHS, the covers are really artsy. It's like full-on art went into the making of those VHS tapes. And let me think. For instance, and I'm live. It kind of got lost. People didn't really do that anymore, and it's really, really sad, because nowadays you just have a strict, maybe the actor's face or so on and so forth. Like, this is how, back in the day, these are like this is Mutiny on the Bounty with Marlon Brando, but it's like a drawing. It's art. That's how they are. And for instance, and then this is another film, Murder on the Orient Express, that actually uses an art, some kind of art as the cover. But what they started doing was, when they were re-releasing a lot of films on Blu-ray, they were really simplifying the covers, and I cannot stand how they are. This film, National Lampoon's Vacation, has an amazing art, like a poster, and it's almost like a Star Wars kind of poster, where it's Clark Griswold, in the middle, and it's really awesome. I don't know what you would call that, but it was art, and it was amazing looking. It was awesome, and it really sold the film. Now they just took the car, in the desert, and put him on the cover like that, and they really simplified it. And that is the magic that was lost in VHS. I'm trying to see. I have some VHS down there, but it's really no point in me grabbing them and showing them, because I've already talked about it. But yeah, so I was I really know how to babble on about nothing. I haven't even gotten to epic films yet, and this is called The History of Epic Films. So I was just, in my mom's apartment office looking at those, and I was like, man, this movie looks sweet. And I'm kind of rehashing a story that I've told multiple times on my channel, and it is my love of war films. And since I was a kid, I've always been obsessed with learning stuff. Even to this day, before I go to sleep every night, I at least read different online encyclopedias for like an hour. Like, I'm really a big nerd, and I know some of you guys are the same way. Like, I love going on Wikipedia and just, okay, the epic film. All right, let's read about the epic film. And then like halfway through that article, it'll say a person's name, and I'm like, oh, that person, let's click on that. And I go to that article. Then I go down to the citations, and I find where they reference some of this stuff, and I go to that site. And that's what I spend an hour doing that, and I've done that my entire life. I used to go into like the storage area of my house growing up and read all encyclopedias. Like, I just love it. And Yes, I'm a nerd, but I'm proud to be a nerd. So this is how I was in regards to war. I come from a family that's heavy in the military, and I have World War II veterans in my family. I have Korean War veterans in my family. I have Vietnam War veterans in my family. So history and history of war in general was always an interest to me growing up. And so with all that knowledge and stuff, I remember looking at the actual um, front cover for the film A Bridge Too Far. And basically the front cover was it was a picture, but it was kind of it kind of looked more like a painting. It was a rendering of one of the jets flying around this bridge, and it was blowing up and all this stuff. And I was like, man, that is a sweet picture. It was like a Spitfire jet or whatever. And it was like, it really sold me. I was really into that. And I was like, okay, well, I like The Godfather. I was young, but my mom's favorite movie is The Godfather, so I would sneak and watch it, and that's why it's still my favorite movie of all time. And I was like, well, I like movies in general, so I might as well just go ahead and check this out since I'm really into this. And so it was like that. The film was actually the result. My love of film is the result of taking two passions of mine and bringing them together, and that was liking to be entertained, not necessarily about loving film and like how I do now. I just liked movies. I liked entertainment. I liked TV, and I took that and I branched it over with my love of reading, my love of history, my love of learning, and it all came together because then I started watching war films where I was learning and I was being entertained, and that is where I think I have my grounding in film knowledge and being a cinephile comes from, because I look at films like I started to that day from a perspective of wanting to learn, not just being entertained, but wanting to learn. So I go into every movie and I don't really not like a lot of movies. Even if it's a terrible movie, I'll find one thing about it that I like and I'll elaborate on that one thing. And this video, I'm doing a lot of this and this and this and this and this, but it's okay. So I, was watching A Bridge Too Far, and I was like, man, this movie is so awesome. The actors are amazing. And so I continued to watch movies with the war setting. And the main three were Bridge Too Far, The Longest Day, and Patton, which are epic films. So then I, started watching other war films with those actors that were in those films, and it's like taking a bullet, shooting it at a window, and it starts out this big, and then I started branching out, and now I love all kinds of cinema, from Japanese cinema to American cinema to Canadian cinema to Mexican cinema to I'm sure if they made a movie in space, that's what I would be a fan of that too. I have a box set right here, right behind me right here, that is basically all the early films of Thomas Edison and basically the international start of film. Like Great Train Robberies on there, Trip to the Moon is in this set. Hangover. And so I just love films of all kinds now. That spider's web has grown to cover the earth, I guess you could say. I sound like a James Bond villain just then. Mr. Bond, it's like a spider web that's going to cover the earth. Excuse me while I drink my Panda Express. Okay. Anyways, so epic films have always meant a lot to me, and to this day, I still watch epic films at least on a weekly basis, at least one or two. So now let's go ahead and talk about the history of the epic film, I guess you could say. Of course, within culture, within society that we as now know it, a lot of things originated from, ancient Greece, the Roman times, and I have my set of notes here. And to define an epic film, it's really divided into, there's plenty of categories, but there's, in my opinion, there's three big things that classify a film as an epic film. Now, it can be one of these, it could be all three of these, but there's three big things that I use, and I know a lot of other people use to classify what is an epic film, what is the definition of an epic film. And just so you know, the term epic came originally from those eras what I just recently talked about, where there was the Epic of Gilgamesh, there was the Odyssey, there was Beowulf, and really all the poetry and all that stuff of ancient Greece, the Roman Empire, all throughout history. Now we have big books on it, like the Epic of Gilgamesh. I have upstairs, I have like 3 or 4 different translations of that. I love the Odyssey as well. A lot of Shakespeare, in a way, can be considered epic. And so a lot of the term epic came from literature and art of 1,000+ years ago. So what are the three I would say things that define an epic film? Well, the first one is a journey film, a film that has to do with a character that's on a journey, maybe a long journey that takes place over a long period of time. But that's actually getting off on a different thing. But I consider an epic film like it could be like a journey, as in maybe Patton, where you're kind of seeing this historical point of view of a man, his journey through World War II and his career. That could also, that in that kind of fashion. So it's somebody who's on a journey. Number 2, a story that takes place over a very big length of time. A lot of films that they take place over 20-year periods, 30-year periods, 5-year periods. That can also be a classification of an epic film. A lot of the people nowadays that love film, they kind of just consider, or not just people that love film, but people that can think of the word epic. If you went out on the street and you went to each person and you're like, hey, what do you think an epic film is? Well, there's a lot of people that would just say it's a long film. Well, that's the third criteria, I think, that can classify as an epic film, and that is the length. It could take place in one day, but it could be 4 hours long and be considered an epic film. So, to sum all that up, we got a character on a journey, a big length of time, and the length of the film. So that's pretty much, nowadays, the going definition of what is an epic film. And, I consider films like 2001: A Space Odyssey an epic film. It's not over 3 hours, but it is about a long journey with different characters over a long period of time. A journey with mankind, I guess you could say, too. And I also consider films like Planet of the Apes an epic film, because you're following and it's not even a 3-hour movie. It's just about 2 hours. But I consider that epic film because it takes place. It's a journey of a character throughout a big journey, and we also call the Star Wars films epics because it's like an epic space opera because of the fact that you're following this character and a main character, but then a bunch of little characters through a big area through a long period of time. And it's a journey of all them. And so that's just how and of course, everybody likes to point to films like Lawrence of Arabia. I don't know. I was thinking about Laurence Olivier, so I said Lawrence of Arabia. But, people, will point, that's an epic film, Lawrence of Arabia. That's an epic film, The Ten Commandments. That's an epic film, Ben-Hur. But there's actually epic films that are not 3 hours long. And so, and in terms of film, a lot of these films started back with, the days of D.W. Griffith, the early days of Cecil B. DeMille, even though he continued to make epic films. But one of the first epic silent films I ever saw was Birth of a Nation. I love that film. I think it's a brilliant film. I do disagree with most of the second half due to the content in regards to the KKK. But I love the film because of the fact that it was really, um, you know, it was like a moving part in cinema that, it helped make epic films with a story that was just unfolding over a period of time during a war. Um, do I wish that, you know, the second half of the film was to maybe like kind of a slightly fictionalized history of the KKK? Could I maybe have seen something else in that second half, like an actual plot device in that second half that wasn't as racist? Of course, but they also, half of that movie is based off the book The Klansman, and so they would have to find another book. But I think it'd be cool to see the, the Lincoln assassination and all that stuff with maybe a different storyline going through it. But I still really like A Birth of a Nation because of just how grand and epic it is. But there's times where I'm just like, nowadays watching it, I'm just like, oh my gosh, how the heck did they even make this? And it's to this day divides people. But yeah, D.W. Griffith was really one of the main influence of these long epic films. And then, eventually it carried internationally too, with Fritz Lang, with Die Nibelungen, which is one of my all-time favorite films now. Basically a precursor to, I would say, my buddy Luke said one time, he said it was basically a perfect blend of Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings, because it has that really evil, manipulative kind of characters and storylines through part of it, and it's very dark, and maybe doesn't have like a huge setting like Lord of the Rings. And then there's other parts of it that is huge and epic in scope like Lord of the Rings. And so he said it was like a perfect blend of that. And when he said that, I was like, oh my gosh, that's the perfect way to explain what Die Nibelungen is, how it is, and what's the tone. The first part, which is, I mean, it's really two films, but it's one epic story. The first film is kind of the Lord of the Rings-ish type film. Then the second one, which is, of course, a continuation of the first story, is the Game of Thrones kind of film. It's very dark, very it pulls you in, I guess I could say, and it really shows a dark side to humanity, and it really brings up morals and all that stuff. Not to mention that the film is a damn good looking film, but so yeah, and so all over the world they were enjoying this way of watching films and how seeing the stories unfold. And eventually the epic film itself peaked, I would say, maybe in the 1950s, 1960s. And, up until that point, they always made a ton of money. I mean, if you change the greatest box office films of all time and adjust them for inflation by basically the numbers of tickets sold, not necessarily the amount of money it made, most of them are epic films. And then there came a time, I guess, in the late 1960s, it even started in the early 1960s, where films like The Fall of the Roman Empire, Cleopatra, some other films too that were made, but they failed critically compared to some of those earlier films. I mean, me personally, Cleopatra is a big film in the history of cinema, but mainly I think it's big because of the star, Elizabeth Taylor, the subject matter, Cleopatra, and the fact that it was such a big budget film. But what I see when I see Cleopatra nowadays is a very bloated film. I don't really care for it as much. I've only actually seen it twice, and the second time I was dragging myself through it. And I'm a big fan of that part of history. I'm a big fan of that those actors, but there's something about the film. I think I tried watching when I was a kid, and I just couldn't stand it. I didn't get into it. I thought it was very bloated, and but yes. So around that time period, that's when I would say that the film started not grossing nearly as much money, and they almost kind of withdrew to making more epic films that were shorter in length too. So and in the 70s, with Star Wars and stuff coming out, but let me see. And there's of course a bunch of subdramas with epic films. A lot of people, if something is historical in terms of being biblical, they automatically brand that an epic film, even if it's an hour and a half or 2 hours. Like Passion of the Christ is branded an epic film. You know, and the best way to describe, you know, some people just think the length. If a movie is long, it's considered epic. I have to disagree because I was really trying to figure out how to get this into words, but then I read this quote by Roger Ebert, and basically it says this: the word epic in recent years has become synonymous with big budget B pictures. What you realize during Lawrence Arabia, I just did it again. What you realize watching Lawrence Arabia is that the word epic refers not to the cost or the elaborate production, but to the size of the ideas and the vision. If you look at Werner Herzog's Aguirre, The Wrath of God, it didn't cost as much as the catering in Pearl Harbor, but it's an epic, and Pearl Harbor is not. I guess you could throw up in the air whether Pearl Harbor isn't epic because of what it tries to do and what the subject matter is, but that was just, some people just consider. You can't really put Pearl Harbor in the same category as Ben-Hur for some reasons. Of course, me making that statement alone is kind of controversial because Pearl Harbor does, have something to do with, history, and it does take place over a period of time and a journey. But, I guess that's when the question comes up: just because a film's a failure or it messes up in some aspects, does that mean we still can't classify as that as an epic? Well, I guess that's where, the fact that you have to rely on the fact that it's just your opinion. So, I liked Pearl Harbor when it first came out. I don't really care for it anymore, but there's people that hated it since day one. Roger Ebert did not like the film, and so he didn't consider it an epic film. Is it an epic film? I would say yes, just because of the, like I said, the subject matter and the journey with the characters, but it's just not a great epic film. Recently I would say epic films have had a resurgence, I guess you could say, with the home media format and with Blu-ray, and I would say the superhero genre because of, Batman, the Dark Knight, and the Avengers films, everything that has to do with the Marvel universe. They're long films and they're about characters over a long period of time, and sometimes it's a shorter period of time, but it's a big epic journey and it's a lengthy film. But I would say that it's making a comeback because these films are like 2 hours and 45 minutes, and they are pretty big pictures. And a lot of people buying extended cuts of films on Blu-ray that are 3 hours plus long, like in length, and films like Gettysburg, which was always really popular in the 90s, and its sequel, Gods and Generals, which is a film I saw in the cinema. It's almost 4 hours long. I love it. I love it, love it, love it. But now they've released an extended cut on Blu-ray that blows the theatrical cut out of the water and really addresses all those complaints that we had about the theatrical cut. And slowly films are starting to get back to the epic feel again. But not all of them are, successful. I haven't seen it yet, but I really wanted to see Exodus: Gods and Kings. It really divided critics. Some people liked it, some people didn't like it. Avatar is actually another epic film that I consider epic, that blew the competition out of the water. And, that's a very good film. And hopefully James Cameron one day will finally stop delaying. Well, not delay, because I feel like he's been saying he's making Avatar, the second Avatar, and some of the sequels for the last while now. But I know how he is. technology-wise, he wants to wait for the perfect time, and so. But I think those kind of films are making a comeback. Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, and so I think one day we're going to see a 4-hour movie in the cinema. Oh, Boyhood! Boyhood is an epic film. Takes place over a long period of time. Takes basically a 3-hour film, and it's a great film. So that's considered an epic film to me. And so they're making a comeback, and not necessarily making a comeback because they've always made long films and stuff like that, but they haven't been as successful as they used to be. The most Academy Awards won by films, there's 3, and that's 11. And those are all three epic films. Ben-Hur, Titanic, and Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, all won 11 Oscars. And so that's basically a very, very brief history of the epic film. But I really, really, really wanted to do this video because I think that I want more people to get into epic films, and I think people watching this might be like, you know what, I'm gonna go back and watch this film. I'm gonna go back and watch this film. And I just really love talking, as you can tell. It took me forever to get started with the actual topic of the video, but I'm really glad I did it, and I plan on doing a top 5 epic films shortly. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to check out all the links down below. You could support me by liking the video, commenting, subscribing. If you want to give on Patreon, you can give on Patreon. I got tons of awesome rewards for that. And you can follow me on social media. Head over to geeky.com. I'm going to be I've really had a gap in putting out content with geeky.com due to, just being busy and stuff. But I'm really wanting to make a comeback in regards to live streaming and doing other stuff with the community. And, those are cool guys, and I want to, get back and support everything that they're doing. And thank you guys so much for giving me this opportunity again. And I will see all of you in the next video. Take it easy. Thank you for watching.